All right, so I believe we are live. So if anybody is watching this now, I know there's a lot of people that were anticipating this interview. Just send me an emoji, let me know that you can hear us, you can see us, and we'll just give it a moment. I believe we are live. So if anybody is watching this now, I know there's a lot of people that were anticipating this interview. Just send me an emoji, let me know that you can hear us, you can see us. Okay, I think something is glitching because I'm hearing myself back. So Elizabeth is giving me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to continue talking. It seems like it has stopped.
Yeah.
So guys, don't go anywhere. I know there's a few people watching. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to restart this. I think something is glitching.
I think somewhere in the background you have the Facebook Live running, so it's the delayed feed is coming through.
Okay,
so you might want to close or mute whatever that is.
All right. It seems like it has stopped. So guys, don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm just going to reset this. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to restart this.
I think somewhere in the background
you
have the Facebook Live running, so it's the delayed feed is coming through.
Yeah,
so
okay,
you might want to close or mute whatever that is.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to reset it, Christian, and ask for forgiveness after. Okay, no, it looks like we're on the live stream now. Okay, we are on the live stream, and I am also recording this on Zoom. So let's restart. Welcome, I'm Diana Lockett. I'm super excited to start this new series, and I'll be totally transparent. This is my unwillingness right now to go as deep as a podcast, but really wanting to host and have a platform to interview heart-centered leaders around the world. And so I'm starting this new program called Realign2Thrive with Facebook Live, and my very first interview and my first guest is Christian Pankhurst, and I'm super excited to have Christian here. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to turn it over to Christian. So Christian is a world-leading authority on heart-centered communication and heart-intelligent relationships. He's the creator and the founder of Heart IQ, a revolutionary new language of the heart, designed to help individuals, couples, families, and communities reconnect and heal at their deepest level possible. In 2009, Christian was awarded the title of Britain's next top coach after winning a national coaching competition with a majority of the votes from over 92 countries around the world. And following this success, he opened up the Heart IQ Academy in 2011 and created a professional training organization. And he certified over 300 personal and small group coaches, as well as large event facilitators in over 25 countries around the world. Christian's background is in chiropractic. He became a chiropractor in 2002, and he's worked closely with world-leading experts in the field of personal transformation. In 2006, after studying with mentors from multiple disciplines, he began developing a new approach to coaching individuals and couples that integrates, get this, natural healing philosophies, spiritual teachings, therapeutic psychology, dance and movement modalities, martial arts, embodiment practices, nonviolent communication, circling, and other healing art modalities. This is an extremely unique opportunity to move into self-healing, self-care, and personal development that is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Christian has a retreat facility in the Netherlands, which is where he lives, and he has a dedicated team of Heart IQ team there. And a little bit about the Heart IQ mission. His mission is to offer men, women, and couples a healthy imprint for being fully conscious, compassionate, and connected with themselves and to others. Through a process of experiential and embodied practice, participants are lovingly, and I'm going to repeat that, lovingly and expertly guided to meet and embrace all aspects of themselves, together with others, in community and tribe. And by doing this important work, we get to put an end to passing down the toxic pain, the toxic imprints, and the toxic dysfunction from one generation to the next, so that our children can help to shape a better world. And with that, welcome, Christian.
Yay, thank you. That was a lot.
It is a lot. I know it's a lot. And I felt it was, I felt it was so important to honor all parts of this, because it speaks to the depth of the work that you've done in preparation for delivering this work into the world. That you didn't just show up one day and start teaching this, that you have really studied in depth so many different modalities and done your own personal work. And I'm going to pass it over to Christian. And first, I want to say I met Christian for the first time live in 2017 at his retreat facility in the Netherlands, in Hemrik. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Hemrik. I have been studying, mentoring, following Christian's work almost since it began. Somehow it showed up on my feed and I started following. And I don't know if Christian knows this, but I've seen pretty well all of his live streamed events. And it has created a personal transformation in me and how I view myself, how I view the world, and how I want to interact with the world and with myself in a way that nothing else has. So thank you, Christian, and welcome.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to hear, I'd love the world to hear, this audience to hear. Tell us about Heart IQ.
Thank you. It's just interesting, because I really want to answer that, I just want to track, this is part of the work as well, it's just coming really present and alive and just tuning into what's real in the moment. And I notice, in just listening to you reflecting back my bio, for example, there's that part of me that doesn't quite know how to receive or embrace all of that. It gets a little bit uncomfortable, a bit shy, a bit awkward, and a little bit like, oh, that's a bit grandiose. It's so interesting to feel that still. And the way I move through it is just by naming it, speaking it, breathing through it. And again, this is a big part of Heart IQ, is this willingness to be with what is and to speak the truth of the moment and share vulnerably and honestly. And be in connection with all of what's alive. So to speak to the larger piece of what Heart IQ is, and really why I'm doing what I'm doing and bringing what I'm bringing, I've known for a very long time, and I don't think I'm alone here, that there is a new possibility for how we can operate and live and love and connect as a species. And there's an awakening going on the planet. And I feel a big part of that movement that many of us are on in our own unique ways. What I came to see, though, is that even though we're on this journey of awakening, and there are certain ways that we are being called into to step up our game, to become more conscious and live in a way that more enlightened cultures might live. So we're being invited to step into a different paradigm. What I'm aware of, though, is that there's a lot of trauma that is in ourselves personally, collectively, and generationally, that often can get left behind. And therefore, as we move towards an awakened life and an awakened new way of being, we cannot look and really deal with all aspects that can hinder that journey and that progress. And in fact, will ultimately sabotage and roadblock us on the way to being in this new paradigm. So although my work isn't trauma focused, it deals with what comes up as we move towards our own awakened living. Now, I do all my work in groups for the simple reason that as we enter a group, a lot of the parts of us that we've left behind show up in the presence of others, and then they mirror back. And through understanding and mastering, actually, the art of translating group dynamics, we get to see ourselves reflected in other. And if we can start to see how we are in the presence of other, we can begin to decode some of our patterns and some of what we're carrying and join some of the dots. Basically increase our consciousness, because it's when we increase consciousness that we create freedom in our lives. However, there's also another aspect which is equally as important. It's not just the consciousness that comes through understanding who we are and what we're bringing in the present moment, but it's also the embodied practice of dropping into our sensations, our somatic awareness, our emotional body, our feeling body, so that we actually honor and own all of what's alive, rather than just stay more in a mental, analytical, higher frequency, where we're really dropping deeply into ourselves. And then doing that in connection. So staying relational with it has been absolutely key. So I often say that there are three primary aspects of Heart IQ. There's the personal work. Then there's the work we do in relationship, the heart-centered communication, conflict resolution, how to communicate in such a way that all of who you are lands with another. And then there's the community work, the circle work. We do the practices together to create a new operating system of how we can live in a more harmonious way. And not many people really live in communities yet. We used to, in our tribal hunter-gatherer days, but we have more of a, what do they call that kind of construction where most people partner up, they're in a house, they have kids, so they're in a nuclear family system. But there are some people who are venturing into exploring what does it look like to live together in community again. Intentional communities are popping up all over the world. It's not mainstream yet, but there's exploration happening. Some of the big ones like Findhorn and Tamira in Portugal and others all over the world, they are leading the way in the research basically on how can we bring the very best of community living together and what is needed as an operating system to make that come alive. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people love the idea of community, and then they gather together with friends or family or people that they want to live with, and then all this unresolved stuff comes up. Issues around sexuality, trauma, undigested hurt, heartbreak, past, generational stuff. Whatever is undealt with will come up in an amplified field, and a community is such a field. So a lot of what we do with the work of Heart IQ is not just, okay, this is what's going to be a personal opening or something that's going to impact your relationship, but it's also preparing us for another way of living where I think community is going to be far more important.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot
to digest. And I want to affirm what I heard so strongly about the risk and the danger of what I call the spiritual bypass of stepping in personal development, stepping up and going through all these processes of manifestation and being in a conscious awareness where you're connected to source, but you're not necessarily working through some of the traumas. And it's not that we have to go looking for them. My understanding through Heart IQ is all we have to do is open up in relationship or in community, and they'll find us, because those are what we call our triggers, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, the triggers are the community moments and relational moments. And then the trigger reveals a history of what happened. Yeah. Now, we can get too engrossed in what happened to us, why it happened to us, who did what to us, how and when. So we can get a bit lost in the whole pursuit of never-ending therapy. But I absolutely agree that there is this thing that Neil Donald Walsh coined, or at least he shared with me the term, the New Age bypass, because this idea, like take, for example, unity consciousness. I am 100% behind the concept and the idea that we need as a species to live as if we're one. That unity and a connection culture is more important moving forward than a separation culture. And therefore, understanding that we're all one, that we are unified at every level is critically important. And if I were to ask a lot of people on the spiritual path, do you believe that we're all one? Nearly everybody would say yes. And yet, the behaviors of all of us who agree to the concept aren't always in alignment and integrity with that in our lives. In other words, we don't always act as if we're one in all moments because we're not yet fully emotionally mature to release the, like you said, the trauma that does create fear of abandonment, rejection, or this contraction in relationship to others, distrust, and all the mummy and daddy stuff, and the young parts that are afraid and are deeply hurt and are blaming, are in victim. So until we learn how to hold all of these parts and create unity within, in other words, the first unity is, can I be unified and in integrity with all of the parts of me? And that's what the true word of healing, the Greek word of healing, means. It's wholeness. It's coming back whole again. So instead of having one part that's out and fragmented and having its voice over here and another part being in war, in opposition, how can we bring these together? And it's through the unification of our light and dark, our shadows and our brilliance, the here and the there, the left and the right, every aspect of ourselves. When we welcome it all, there is a wholeness that comes. And there is no end to that journey. So if anybody's listening going, oh, okay, is this going to be something we do and then it's done and I can now be free? Well, it's a process that I think continues the rest of our life. For those science nerds out there, take the speed of light. It's actually really impossible for matter to reach the speed of light. We can get close, but the closer you get, the harder it is to get to the speed of light because the amount of mass that you need to propel is just almost infinite. So we can get 99.99999%, but you never get there. So I think healing is something very similar. You can make really big movements early on, but as you go further, you can be really functional. You can be really whole. And in fact, you can operate in life with so much integrity and unity within. And yet there's always that other little piece that we can work on, that we can expand into, that we can love and cherish and deepen. So I don't think the journey ever ends, but we can all make progress. And the beautiful truth is that our brains and nervous systems are plastic, even into old age. It's less plastic, but we still have the capacity to lay down new neural pathways and become more conscious, become aware of how we are in the moment and do it differently.
Beautifully said. And when you talk about how this is a lifelong journey, I'll share really quickly. When I started personal development and healing, my first healer, I'll call him a healer, was an energy healer that I saw in 2003. And I said to him, I have 3 months, I'm off work. I'm going to come 3 times a week and I'm going to pay you $100 an hour, 3 times a week to heal me. And we have to be done by September 4th, Labor Day, because I'm back at work and I don't have time then. This was my belief at the time. Wow. I've grown a lot since then. What is your response to people who are seeking where they need to heal, people who are going to counselors, going to therapists, going to coaches, knowing that there's something, but they're reaching out for it? What's your response to that? Do we go looking for what needs to heal? And how do we do that? Well,
I think it's healthy that we get an impulse to seek help when we feel we need help. So if we're being pushed by it, by others like family or friends, I don't think that's very supportive because we tend to resist that. All healing has its time.
That's what I was getting to, is that we don't have to force healing, right?
No, absolutely not. So there is such a thing as being out of balance with this thought that we're not okay as we are, and we're continuously searching for answers outside of ourselves and moving from one modality to the next. And it almost feels like an addiction that never seems to satisfy. We have a craving for the high that comes from an awakened moment, but it doesn't quite touch the deepest parts of us. But like I said, I would, if somebody's feeling that place inside of them when they go, it's time for me to look at this, I need help. I think that's a victory. That's a spiritual victory right there, that moment. And often it requires something in their life to make that known. So sometimes that doesn't just come one day waking up like, oh, I need help. I think I need support in this area. Often it could be a catastrophe. Like, for example, right now we're in lockdown, or many of us are suffering from isolation through this period of time in the pandemic. And in this, I can speak for myself, in the space that I have where I'm not doing my normal routine of doingness, working, delivering, facilitating, I have more space to feel me, to be more internal. And this time brings me into the stuff that maybe I've left behind or just put in the back burner because I was too busy with my own life. And so often certain things will happen in the world or in our life that create a fulcrum, a leverage point to go to the next level. And often these are soul slaps, so they're not always pleasant. You know, it could be a death of a loved one, or we get sick, or something kind of kicks us into the next gear of priority around doing this work.
I've never heard the expression soul slaps. I love that.
Yes.
I mean, I don't love it personally, but it's a really meaningful way to, to speak of those times that can potentially bring us to our knees. And then we have an opportunity. What do we do with that information? And what do we do with our hearts in that time?
Totally.
Yeah. What's your vision for the world through Heart IQ?
Yeah, it's a big question around the world. I'm going to answer it a little bit in a smaller way than it can be expanded into like the world, because every time I try to speak about it as, it's, I might be able to say simply, I would love to support, I want to create healthy kids, right? Because they are the leaders of tomorrow, and they are they're the future, basically. And as trauma is generational often and it's passed down, we end it by enlightening adults. So through the personal work, the relationship work, and the community, family work, the whole idea is to take this theology or this cosmology of oneness and enlightenment and help people actually do what is necessary to become that and live that in their life experientially. And so my vision for the world is to do my part in creating and supporting as many healthy, healed, or not healed, period, but I want to contribute to the healing of this planet. But I don't feel like Heart IQ is the answer to that, like the only thing that is doing that. There is so much amazing good stuff that's going on in the world. I just feel like this is my specific gift or offering or journey that I can contribute. And like I said, I think what makes Heart IQ very unique is not that we work with trauma, or that we work with awakening, or that we work with shadows, or we work with communication, or we work with the personal, the relationship, and we work with community operating system. It's the fact that it all happens. And it's a multi-dimensional, multi-layered, integrated system that is remarkable. It's the fact that you can find everything. Maybe not everything, but there's a lot that you can, when you're in Heart IQ, you realize that there's just so many layers that we consider in it. And there are very few systems that are so integrative, I should call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you were talking about like, if I could write what I would love to see happen to the world, it's that when we awaken together and we start to collectively tune in and live through this new paradigm of heart-centered connection. I think that the compassion and empathy we will have is going to transform everything from how we do politics and how we do relationship, how we live together, how children are raised, our relationship to the role of elders, staying in purpose and in connection, and work and vocation, how technology is balanced with nature. So this, and the way that we are really approaching health as a full mind, body, spirit exploration, rather than a medical problem that needs to be fixed by removing something. So I think so much is going to happen, and eventually, if we look really down the line, I can see a future whereby the current systems that are operating politically, financially, there just won't be room for it. There just won't be a need for it. It would be a repulsion to those who are ready to live in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I think they will just disappear. Yeah.
And for anybody who's listening, who is curious about what exactly does it mean to do this integrative work, what might they expect if they were going to participate in one of your events? And your events right now are online, I recognize that, but what might someone expect?
Well, it's interesting because you say they're online. I mean, we run programs online simply to prepare people so that when they come to a live event, their nervous systems are ready and they've had some pre-training to receive what's coming. Mm-hmm. So to answer the question in reverse, at a live event, what would happen is that we would be in a small group of around maybe 20 to 40 people, and there would be an experiential, emergent, amplified field created. Now, what that basically means in English is time is spent to sync up that group, to have them feel safe and connected to their bodies, fully present, and in capacity, so that the group itself is co-regulating, and their nervous systems sync up in such a way where now deeper healing can emerge, not from an individual's thought about it, but because it arises through the safety that is created in such a resonant field. Now, there's certain practices and certain things that need to be done in order to create such a field. It doesn't happen automatically. If you just grab a bunch of people and sit them there over time, it does not create a resonant, emergent, amplified field. That needs to be facilitated and guided, like somebody who's a conductor of an orchestra needs to tune the orchestra and make sure the instruments are playing in sync so there's a symphony. There's an art to facilitating a group into resonance. Once the group is in resonance, then what would happen is there would be time spent to meet whatever traumas, parts, or elements of somebody's healing journey want to be met, claimed, or experienced or received. So there would be different people who would take space throughout a period of a retreat or a time period, whether as an individual or as a couple. And we would definitely, what would happen is there'd be an opportunity for people to actually surrender into what it is that they are feeling is necessary as their next step. And it doesn't come from the mind. It's very body-led. It's very impulse-led. It's like, I'm not sure why I'm feeling this, but this is what's alive. And then they meet it in connection with another. And that's the key. There's something about doing this together. There's a saying that goes, trauma was created in connection and requires connection to heal it. So to think that we can just understand, deal with our stuff by ourselves, we can get conscious by ourselves to a degree. We can get more conscious through good mirrors, but we get embodied conscious when we actually meet our full emotional energetic contraction in the presence and in connection with others. So that is what can be expected at a live event. On an online kind of program, what we do is we do more of the language work. So Heart IQ is actually a language of the heart, a language of love. It's a language of how do we track our inner world? How do we become self-conscious of all of the inner meanderings, inner workings, inner ways that we deal with our pain? And we learn how to express and receive another relationally. And that stuff is brilliantly done online. We can train that. And that's what the Heart IQ Challenge is about. It's a 90-day training where we actually teach people the language of Heart IQ so that we all have a common language when we do the deeper work live. Now, right now, we're not doing any live events because of the pandemic, but it allows for a lot of people to get at least fluent in the language. And
yeah, we're preparing ourselves. This is a time where we get to prepare for the time that we can come together. And I want to just assure people this opportunity to come together and the resonance that gets created in the field is done in the field, meaning in the community or in the group, and the energy in the group is done with so much care and gentleness and compassion and patience and understanding that it allows one's nervous system to relax fully. And it's when the nervous system relaxes that what you really need can start to emerge. And I know in my personal experience, I've done 4 different events with Christian. One of them was in the Netherlands. It took me 7 days for my nervous system to fully relax, where I could become clear about what I needed. Every day it was like, I don't know what I need. I don't know what I need. And on the last day, in addition to my nervous system relaxing, I felt this sense of urgency, like we're running out of time. If I came all this way, if I'm going to get something out of this, not that I didn't get tons in the 6 days preceding, but I knew there was something that needed to emerge from me that I needed to claim and ask for. And what it was a complete surrender. It was a complete surrender. And I don't know if you remember this, Christian, but I said, this is my longing to surrender. And here's how I imagine it would happen. And what you said to me was, Diana, do you trust me? And I said, yes. He says, then let me set it up for you. Like I wanted to surrender, but I wanted to control how I was going to surrender.
Yes, I remember.
And the event, I don't want to give away what happened because it was beautiful and brilliant and complete surrender. And I still hold that in me, that place of surrender. I still I can tune into it. And the imprint I got, the very first imprint of my life of surrender was at that moment. And it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. I'd love for you to tell people a little bit about the 90-day challenge, because I know that's coming up soon. And I'm super excited. I did the 90-day challenge in the spring, and I'm training with Christian right now to be the 90-day challenge Heart IQ coach. And I'm really excited to invite people to come on this journey with us. So if you can speak to that, Christian.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So it begins on March the 21st, and it's an online training experience where we used the beautiful, amazing miracle of technology to train our heart intelligence. So there are 3 core areas, and we've touched on them earlier this call as well, which has been around. There is weekly personal, relational, and circle practices that are taught. So that each week you get a chance to drop in and deepen your connection to your self-intimacy and master this self-awareness. And then you get to practice with a buddy to connect relationally and to practice this with another, whether it's a buddy you get connected with on the course, or perhaps you do this with your partner. So you're learning the communication practices, you're learning the intimacy practices that allow you to come into deeper connection. And then you have an opportunity to circle up. And through the circle practice, you get to learn actually how to bring yourself into an amplified field. A lot of people don't realize this, that they don't just have relational trauma, but they have what's called group trauma, which means trauma that's related to being in the presence of many, not just one. And that group trauma can only be healed in a group, which is why people are actually drawn to groups, even though they're terrified of them. And it's very, very important. It's a missing link, I think, in a lot of therapy, which is usually done one-to-one. we have 3 versions of the challenge. There's a self-study one, which you basically do on your own in your own time, and you're left alone really to do what you need to do with it. It's for people who are really proactive and just have a very busy schedule and don't really want the live calls or coaching, and they just want to say, just give me the tools, the education, let me figure it out. Then we have the most popular one, which is the live coaching version, which is what Diana's part of, which is every week you're being guided by Summer and I. Summer is the woman that I partner with in delivering the challenge, and you get practices each week. We're on the website, online, answering questions, connecting. There's community that's being built. There are weekly calls where you practice with a coach, with a small group. So it's really intimate, really profound, and there is this momentum in this journey that you're on that journey together. And we also offer a professional version, which is where you do the challenge as a participant, but then you also come to New Eden in the summer, hopefully, and you get to experience over a 2-week period a deep dive into the facilitation arts, and you're in retreat for yourself personally, but you're starting to also learn how to coach the skills from the Heart IQ Challenge, so you can begin to facilitate and bring this work into your professional lives as well. So I'm the most proud of all the things I've ever created. The challenge is the thing that is like it just feels like, the piece that I would say, I'm so glad that I've been able to birth this into the world. I'm super proud of what it is and what it can do, and the impact that it makes in people's personal lives, relational lives, family lives, professional lives, community lives is amazing. In fact, in the first challenge we did last year, we simultaneously had a community that was living here at New Eden, and they used the very challenge as a way to bond and create resonance and to test it as the operating system for a community. So a community went through it together, not just a couple, but an entire group, and it was profound. So that is the Heart IQ 90-day challenge, and we're super excited to be launching it again this year. We don't launch it a lot, so it's like, I don't know if we'll do it again this year. So if you do want to do it, I would definitely recommend Mark's to go ahead and bring yourself into that. Otherwise, there might be one other time we do it this year. Otherwise, it will be in 2022.
Yeah, brilliant. It is such an incredible, supportive, comprehensive, clear, patiently delivered program that at least my experience, allowed me to really, and it came to me at a time that I really needed to get back into practice in this work, to really get clear about my communication, to really tune in. And I want to just clarify, when Christian says intimacy, this is your relationship with yourself. This is your ability to feel yourself and know what you need, and be able to potentially give voice to that as well. So some people might get triggered by that word. I want to be really clear. This is safe. It's beautiful. It's required work. From my perspective, a Christian is super humble when he says Heart IQ isn't the only way. I believe that Heart IQ is the way, and we need to figure out, I don't care what people call it, if somebody wants to sort of, take pieces of it and call it something different, but the teachings, the practices, the intention behind this program, I believe, is really what the world needs right now, to be able to wake up. And I really hope that you'll join us on this 90-day challenge. I think it is brilliant. Bring your friends, your family, your partners, your children to join you, your older children to join you in it, because then you have that opportunity to practice in relationship, which is fantastic as well. Christian, where can people find the information for this? I'll put it in the comments, but if you can please share.
Yeah, so the website is heartiq.org or heartiq.com. It will take you to the same place. And on that homepage, you'll be able to navigate to some extra information. Plus, you'll be able to go directly to the challenge and see more about it. We've got an entire website that describes everything in detail, exactly what you're going to learn, and everything around details, dates, logistics, costs, and all of that. So heartiq.org or heartiq.com is this place to go.
Beautiful. And Christian is so generous with the content that he puts out in this 90-day challenge, but also if you join other programs or groups that he has, the content that's delivered is so incredibly rich. And right now there's a lot of content that's being made available to people so they can sample the 90 days, right? And how do they get that content?
Yes. So, well, in a couple of weeks, Summer and I will be opening up um, a special 1 week taster. So we're going to take a week of the challenge and invite people into it just to see what they feel when they're in the challenge, as a way to feel how the support looks, what the content is, how these personal, relational, and circle practices might feel. And if they want to continue, they can then register. And if not, it's like, at least they've tried it and they've got at least they now know. So for people on the fence, that's something that's coming. And we'll be doing that at the beginning of March. So it's important to get on our list, just so you can get aware of when these things are coming. So that's probably the first thing. We also
when
have
when they go to your website, they can register to
totally.
To
In
your
fact,
list, right?
anything
Yeah.
that they register for, because we've got free masterclasses, we've got this thing called Awakened Living TV running over the next couple of months, where every Sunday we have a broadcast, which comes from a previous event that I was hosting live in the past years, pre-COVID times. And I share sessions from that event, which includes inspirational lectures, audience intervention, coaching, small group practice that you can follow along with partners, or even with an online Zoom group. So that's happening every Sunday. Just to I did that last year as well during the lockdown, just to give people a way to be immersed in Hard IQ when they had time to do it. So that's happening again for the next couple of months. We also have a platform that you can sign up for, our community platform. It's called the Heart IQ Academy. All of our trainings are on there, but you can sign up for a free account, and there's some free trainings that you can get as well to get started. So heartiqacademy.com will take you there as well. So there's plenty of stuff that you can get started with, for sure.
Great. Thank you. Christian, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your work with this community. I have so much gratitude for you, for the work that you do for Hard IQ, for the community of Hard IQ. And I really hope that for those of you watching, that you'll check it out and you'll come along on this journey with us. And slowly, Christian mentioned, we get to transform. We get to transform the generational wounds that we've been passing on. We don't have to continue. We get to say it stops here. And we get to start creating a new operating system that starts from here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yay. Thank you.
All right. So we are off, and I apologize for the glitch.